Tēnā koutou katoa, and welcome to this webinar on the new quality evaluation reporting tools. I'm Morgan Healy. I'm the report analyst for the 2018 quality evaluation, and I'll be taking you through the new tools we released just last week.
Tēnā koe, I am Sharon Beattie, and I am the Stakeholder Communications and Support Person for the PBRF Quality Evaluation. I'm here to assist Morgan.
So the format that we'll run through is we'll look through a few of the slides to provide an introduction to the new information tools, specifically the two new Click apps that we released last week. And we'll cover 1, how to access the apps, 2, review the information provided in each, and then 3, we're going to show you how the apps actually work, including an overview of the functionality. And to do this, we've developed a few scenarios that we're going to run through at the very end. If the content raises any questions for you, you can email these through to pbrfhelp@tec.govt.nz. In early November 2018, we'll release a survey asking you for your input on the new tools and any training needs that you might have. There'll be space in there to raise questions as well. So the purpose of the webinar is to contextualize why we've released these apps now. We want to increase your confidence in these tools and ensure that you know how to access and use them. And to do this, we've done this webinar so you can get a sense of how the app actually works. And we also think it will act as a reference point as you begin to explore the new tools. So you can refer back to it if you have any questions or you want to refresh your memory on anything. So why are we doing this now? As part of our change process for reporting, we've released 2 new online applications with 2003, 2006, and 2012 data included. We've done this now because the apps will be a primary source for TEOs to access the aggregate 2018 results. We want to ensure you're as familiar as possible with these tools prior to the 2018 release in April 2019. It also will enable us to tailor training for you in early 2019 if you want any additional support on how to use these tools. This slide outlines the data included in each of the apps. So I'm not going to read out what's included in each, but I will note a few things. So the first thing to note is that on the final results app, the information reflected is based on previously provided data that we've provided in the written report. So the massive 300-page documents that we've released at the end of the previous quality evaluations.
Those ones that we used all the trees for, Morgan.
That's right. No more trees will die in the making of the quality evaluation results this year. We've applied the same suppression rules of not showing the data at the TEO and subject area level and TEO and nominated academic unit level below 7 FTEs. And we'll talk a little bit more about this when we look through the actual apps. The third thing to note is the researcher demographic app is from the historical data sets, but has not been previously reported in our written reports. So this data is actually new and is quite interesting to delve into, and we'll, as I said, we'll show you a few of the scenarios as we move through. And the fourth thing to note is we've designed these 2 apps as opposed to just one to ensure that the introduction of the demographic information cannot be used to identify a researcher at a particular TEO. So as you'll note on the right-hand side, the researcher demographics app doesn't include TEO-specific data.
Okay, Morgan, so I have a question. How does one access these apps?
An excellent question, Sharon. So the screenshot shows the banner across the TEC website. So in order to access the apps, you want to go to the TEC website, so www.tec.govt.nz, and you want to click on the Nakete login, which I've circled in red there. So once you've clicked on that, you'll be prompted to enter your education sector login, or your ESL ID and password. This will then lead you to the Nakete landing page. So from the Nakete landing page, and in order to find the apps you wish to look at, you want to go to the Information Product Library, which I've again circled at the top there, and you'll scroll down through the list to find either the final results one or the researcher demographic app. For the purposes of today, we're going to start with the final results app and then move into the research demographic app.
And can we have a look now at what it looks like, Morgan?
Yes, so let's quickly run through a few screen grabs of what each of the apps look like before we actually move into running through a few scenarios. So I appreciate you might not be able to see this clearly, but we'll spend a bit of time in the apps to actually provide a better sense of functionality and data availability. This is just to give you kind of an overview of what type of data is included. So the summary sheet includes the totals across all 3 quality evaluation rounds. So if you want to dig into what happened in 2003, you can use one of the filters, the year filter, across the top. So the percentage on the right-hand graph will only change when you apply the TEO name or TEO type. And by that I mean, if you, for instance, select university under TEO type, the blue bar will show the total percentage for that subsector relative to the sector as a whole, which is the red graph or red bar. So the second sheet is the TEO one, and this shows funded quality category by TEO and year. This sheet enables you to compare within subsectors, either totals or by quality evaluation years. You can also select different TEOs to compare, so either the total distribution of funded quality categories or by the actual quality evaluation year. So just to describe what you're looking at, because I appreciate you might not be able to see it, the top graph shows in the y-axis TEO name, and in the x-axis the number of funded quality categories. The bottom graph shows in the y-axis the total number of funded quality categories, and then the x-axis the quality evaluation year. This sheet shows the funded quality categories by panel and year. So this sheet enables you to see panel shifts in total funded quality categories over the quality evaluation rounds. So again, the top graph shows in the y-axis the panel name, and in the x-axis the number of funded quality categories by 3, 6, and 12. The bottom graph shows y-axis, number of funded quality categories, and in the x-axis the quality category type, so A, B, C, and C and E. While there is a filter for year at the top, along the top hand bar there, it doesn't add any additional functionality to the sheet. So you can select it, but none of the numbers are actually going to change in it because it's already visualized by the individual years. So this sheet shows the funded quality categories by subject area and year. This sheet enables you to see subject area shifts in total funded quality categories over the years. And again, if we look at the top graph, along the y-axis, we have the 42 and what will be 43 subject areas. 43 subject areas in 2018. At the moment, there are only 42. And along the x-axis, we have the number of funded quality categories. Jumping down to the bottom, much like we saw on the panel one, on the y-axis, you have the number of funded quality categories, and in the x-axis, you have the quality category type. So again, I just want to note there's a little bar to the right of each of the top graphs, and that just allows you to scroll down the list of subject areas. So the last sheet I'm going to show you is the pivot tables. So the remainder of the sheets in the app are pivot tables of the data that's been provided in all of the previous visualizations. So total funded quality category by TEO, panel, and subject area. The one exception to this is that the TEO information by year and nominated academic unit. We've only pictured that as a pivot table. And that's the one that we've pictured in this screen grab. So these pivot tables can be easily exported to an Excel document for ease of use. You just right-click on the screen and select Export, and then Export Data, and you'll be prompted to save the data as an Excel spreadsheet. And you can do this for all of the pivot tables and even for the data visualizations. So before we move on to the Researcher Demographic app, I just want to highlight a few things to note about the final results app. The first is that the filter of panel and subject area only apply to the sheet that they appear on. So for example, if you apply the panel filter of biological sciences and then move backwards and forwards through the sheets, the other sheets will not show results for biological sciences. The exception to this is where the sheets are showing the same data. So as I just said, we'll have a data visualization of quality category by panel, and then we'll also have a pivot table. So if you apply the panel filter of biological sciences, it will apply in both the visualization and the pivot table. Similarly, some filters will appear on the sheet but not add to the user's functionality. For instance, when results are already displayed by year, selecting year from the top navigation filters won't do anything. And lastly, the suppression of 7 FTE is applied in different ways. So, and these align with the guidelines and how we've applied the suppression rules throughout previous quality evaluations. So for the TEO and subject area information, it is the TEO or possibly TEOs, there might be multiple ones, that have a total less than 7 FTEs for a particular subject area that are rolled up into the category of other. For the TEO and nominated academic unit information, it's actually the nominated academic unit that's rolled up into the category of other if it is less than 7 FTEs. Please note that this may limit the information you can see about your own TEO. So the Researcher Demographic app is in some ways, the functionality is very similar to the final results app. But unlike the final results app, this information is new. So this particular sheet, we start off on new and emerging as a focus. And it shows the total number and percentage of new and emerging researchers by year, so the year of the quality evaluation, and funded quality category. So the right-hand bar graph shows the percentage of new and emerging by subject area, and new and emerging is represented in red. All filters apply on the sheet, and as we'll explore shortly, can be used to create different researcher profiles. This sheet shows the total number and percentage of researchers by ethnicity, by year, and funded quality category. So again, looking at the right-hand graph, this shows the breakdown of researchers' ethnicity by subject area. Given the number of different ethnicities represented, there is a scrolling function, again, on that far right-hand side that allows you to see the distribution across all of the different subject areas. Exactly like the other sheets, this shows the total number and percentage of researchers, this time by gender, by year, and by funded quality category. So again, looking at the right-hand side, you have on the y-axis all of the subject areas, and then on the x-axis you have the percentage by subject area. This sheet shows age, specifically the total number and percentage of researchers by the age bands, and they're banded in lots of 10, I believe, by year and funded quality category. So again, the right-hand graph shows the breakdown of the researchers' age band by the subject areas, and you have the option of scrolling down through all 42 subject areas. Given the number of age bands represented, there is a scrolling function for this, so that you can, again, scroll all the way through. And lastly, in the researcher demographic, we have employment status. So this sheet shows the total number and percentage of researchers by employment status. And by that, we mean either full-time or part-time, by year, and by funded quality category. We define full-time as 1.0 full-time equivalent, or FTE, or greater. So 1.0 or greater. And part-time as anyone less than 1 FTE. And again, in the right-hand column, you see the subject areas and the breakdown of the researcher's employment status by that. So here comes the fun stuff. We're going to move into the actual apps now. We've drafted the following scenarios to help show you the app's functionality. We've chosen TEOs at random, so we haven't selected the University of Canterbury for any particular reason. It was just random. Also, things to note, all the numbers in the apps are FTE weighted and represent to 2 decimal places. So this isn't a count of individual researchers. This applies their FTE status. No suppression rules are applied on researcher demographics as such, but also no TEO level data is provided that will allow you to identify where the researcher is based. And then we're going to run through the functionality in terms of how the filters work. As I said, broadly, they're the same for both apps. There's more limitations in applying filters across all of the sheets in the final results app than compared with the research demographic app.
Okay, Morgan, so there's obviously lots of information here. So let's take a scenario. Say I wanted to look at the University of Canterbury, for example. How did they do in the 2012 quality evaluation? And then I might want to break it down, say how they did in a particular panel, subject area, and do a comparison with them in another TEO. Can we do that?
We can. So I'm going to start with that first example that you gave, Sharon, which is how did the University of Canterbury form in 2012? Before I launch into that, I'm just going to start and give you a bit of an overview of what the app actually looks like. So this is the final results one. We always start with the same setup, which is that you have a menu, and it provides an overview of what each of the sheets actually show you. So, and you can click through to this. So if I wanted to, I could click on summary. And then this is about this app. So again, this is the same in both of them, although the actual things to note obviously vary by each of the apps. And then we get into the actual app. So from here, this shows you the total quality categories and then broken down by type for all of the quality evaluations. So from here, if you wanted to select the University of Canterbury, you would go to TEO name, and you can either scroll down through, or you could search, and apologies, I cannot type, of Canterbury, select University of Canterbury, click this green arrow here. So this is their total number of funded quality categories over all 3 rounds, but you in particular want to look at 2012.
Right, and I just note up on that grey bar at the top that shows me which filter I've applied, right?
Correct.
Does that stay there all the time?
That will stay there all of the time and apply again across the different sheets. And you will need to pay attention to this because it's easy to apply a filter, move to a different sheet, and forget that you've applied. And it's very easy to remove. You just X
So look at the grey bar to see what view you've got. Yeah.
Select. And then let's look at by year. So we'll come down here, select 2012, hit OK. And so this shows you the total quality categories by TEO. So this is their total number of funded quality categories in 2012. And this is the breakdown of their A, B, C, and C and E. And then over here, it will show you the percentage. So this will show you that their total quality categories were 81, let's say, rounding up, relative to the sector total, which was 836, for instance. So if we move down through, because this just gives you a high-level overview.
Right.
This will give you the breakdown, again, of A, B, C, C, and E. So it's just a slightly different view from what you were looking at before. But then if you get down into the panel area, so again, you still have these filters of the University of Canterbury by year. This will tell you, and this is kind of where the year becomes somewhat redundant because the actual sheet is broken down by the individual years of the quality evaluations. But what does apply is this University of Canterbury filter.
It stays on.
It stays on. So the results that you see on this one relate only to the University of Canterbury. So you had mentioned, and this is probably a good time, to say if we wanted to look at how they did in one particular...
let's say I wanted biological sciences, for example.
Great. So we're going to come over here, and we're going to select biological sciences from the list of panel names.
Panel,
Again,
click my green
thing. It's now been added to this top bar. So now you will see that in 2012, the University of Canterbury, so if we wanted to look at 2012, we'd go over here, and we'd see that there were 11 A's in 2012, and that there were, let's say, 24 B's and 9 C's.
And I've got to click that red cross to back out of that view every time.
Yeah. So for some reason on our, and I think it might be our version of Chrome, we actually have to select it, and you should be able to hover over these blocks and have the numbers come up. It has been designed like that, and it was working earlier for me at my desk, so I'm not sure why it's not happening in this particular
Do we have
room.
any particular advice regarding browsers for this app?
So it should work in both Explorer and Chrome, the same.
Yeah.
And again, I've tested it in both, and the functionality seems to be the same. I just think it's a particular computer that we're using at work that hasn't had an update recently.
Yeah.
So the other thing you mentioned was looking at subject area.
Yeah. So let's say, okay, I don't know, accounting and finance, for example.
Great. So what I'm going to do here, because we're in the panel quality category by panel and year, I'm just going to click out of the biological sciences. If you left it on, it'd be fine because the filter actually wouldn't move. The panel filter, again, only applies to the sheets that relate to panel.
Okay.
So if you shift into subject area, it wouldn't apply the biological sciences filter.
Because it wouldn't work with accounting and finance. Okay,
Yeah.
I see.
So again, we still have on the University of Canterbury filter. So if we came over here, and it just so happens that accounting and finance first on the list, click yes. So again, this would show you the total number of funded quality categories in 3, 6, and 12, and then the individual distribution of A, B, C, and obviously C and E from 6 onwards. So again, you could click on that. We're focusing just on 2012, and there were, 5 A's in accounting and finance.
Mm-hmm.
So I think so what I'm going to do is I'm going to X out of here, and I'm going to close all of these filters. So as you see, all of the stuff then goes back to no filters applied. And I think the last thing you talked about was doing a comparison by different TEO types.
Yeah, so can we compare, not picking on you, Canterbury, but could we compare the, say, I don't know, the University of Canterbury with, Lincoln or
Sure.
Another TEO down there?
Yep. So you can either scroll back this way, or you can come up here and do App Overview and just select the Summary tab again. So if we start from the Summary tab, what we can do is we can select, let's say, our Institute of Canterbury. They're in Canterbury. And we scroll down through, and we add Lincoln, and we add the University of Canterbury. So this then shows you a comparison across the 3 TEOs. So again, these will just they will total out of the total number of funded quality categories for all 3 TEOs. But if you wanted to get the individual breakdown of the total, you can then just hover or select to see the actual number. And again, on the right-hand side, what you're seeing is the total for the 3, so the total number of A's for the 3 TEOs relative to the total number of A's in the sector, or those that participated in any of the 3 quality evaluations. So moving through, you then have this kind of distribution. Again, you look at, this is now broken down by the total number of A's, and this is the total number of A's for the University of Canterbury across all 3 rounds. Same for Lincoln. Same around the B's and the C and C and E's. So the C and E's are the pink, and the C is the blue. And then you have the totals broken down by years. So the total number of A quality categories by 3. So that's, again, the total. So that would include the University of Canterbury and Lincoln University. And 12. So again, there seems to be, growth year on year if you're looking down here, and the number of A's across the Canterbury region.
Yeah. Oh, and of course no C and E's for 2003 because we didn't have new and emerging then, right?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. All right. So I've got another question, or a series of questions. I'm interested in Māori researchers, particularly Māori new and emerging researchers. Is that something that the app can show us?
So not the final results app, but let's flick over to the researcher demographic app.
Okay.
So again, very similar setup to what you have in the final results app. We start off with this menu. It gives you a description of what each of the sheets are. You have an about this app. And you also have, I forgot to mention this earlier, a data definitions, which if you click on it, will take you to the definitions that are used, so the terms and the definitions that are used across the app.
Because we do like our acronyms, don't we?
We do, and there's a lot of them that we use in the PBRF. So you mentioned how many Māori new and emerging researchers received a funded quality category. So there's probably 2 ways you can look at this. You could look at it from the new and emerging sheet and apply a filter around ethnicity.
Right.
Or you could go to the ethnicity sheet and apply a filter around new and emerging.
Oh, great. So it doesn't care what order you do those kinds of things in?
It doesn't.
Okay.
No. It depends on kind of what comparisons you want to make. So if you want to look at new and emerging relative to non-new and emerging by ethnicity, this would probably be your best sheet to do that from. So I'm going to go in here and apply Māori. And so again, you can see researcher by new and emerging. So these are the number of Māori new and emerging in 2006 relative to the number of non-Māori new and emerging.
Okay.
Or, sorry, non-new and emerging Māori researchers.
I see.
I put the non in the wrong place there. So if you look at 12, there were 34 funded new and emerging Māori researchers, and then there were 200 funded non-new and emerging Māori researchers. Okay. So then I'll just quickly show you this. So the red remains the new and emerging, the blue are non-new and emerging. The yellow is based on the fact that we didn't have that in 2003. And because these are totals over here across all three quality evaluations, you will see some non-applicable because these are the 2003 ones.
Right. Yeah, where that category didn't exist.
So what you can see is, certain subject areas obviously have higher percentages of new and emerging Māori researchers. So we're on the right-hand side here, than others.
Yeah, okay. Yes, very interesting.
So if you wanted to, and I think you said, narrow down, you were kind of interested in the subject area distribution, but you were more interested in it by a specific round. So let's say 2012. Sure. So let's go up here and apply the 2012 filter. Mm-hmm. And you can see all of that yellow disappears because
we had the new and emerging.
Because it is a new, yeah. But you can also see that the distribution changes, and there are certain subject areas that have no new and emerging Māori researchers. Huh. And so this is where I was talking earlier about the scroll option. So down the far right-hand side here. Yes. So this allows you to scroll through all of the subject areas. Yeah. So you can see, in other health studies, it was all new and emerging. Huh. So all of their Māori were new and emerging.
Okay. And for example, none in pharmacy.
And exactly. So if you were to look at that, you would say that all of the Māori researchers in 2012 were existing researchers.
Okay. Okay.
So the other option here, and I'm gonna remove these filters just to make sure it's kind of clean. So the other way you could do this was to go to the ethnicity. So this shows you the distribution of all the ethnicities that we collect information on, again, by the quality evaluation rounds in the top graphs, and then the actual numbers in the bottom graphs by funded quality category. But again, it shows you then around the subject areas the distribution of the different ethnicities. And this is the total for all three quality evaluations.
We did have a little bit of a caveat around our ethnicity data, didn't we, Morgan?
Yeah, so one of the reasons why we haven't previously published this information is because the data has not always been complete, and you'll see that in this kind of turquoisey bar here, which is not stated. And so that pretty much, you'll notice that there was bigger in 3, 6, and has kind of been decreasing over the years, which is because we've just been collecting better data as it's gone through.
And hopefully this 2018 will be even better.
That's right. So I mean, there's gaps in it pretty much.
Okay.
So there might be you know, ethnicities that we've missed out on because they're in the not stated one.
Sure.
So from here, if you wanted to look at the same view, but you actually wanted to see just new and emerging researchers and how that ethnicity compares and how Māori compare across different ethnicities, you would select yes to the new and emerging. And so this would show you the distribution of new and emerging researchers by their ethnicity. So you can kind of then contextualize the one we were just looking at, which is, you know, Māori new and emerging in 2012 actually make up, you know, a small number. So there's only 28.
Yeah.
Versus European, which is obviously, you know, 379, let's say.
Right. Okay.
So it just provides a, you know, it's a slightly different view. And
so before we were looking at of Māori researchers, what proportion are new and emerging?
Yeah.
This time we're looking at new and emerging, what proportion are Māori?
Well, we're looking at new and emerging by the different ethnicities.
Right.
So yeah. So it's this is only about new and emerging researchers.
Yes.
That's the filter we've applied, and then we can kind of begin to compare and get a sense of the kind of proportions of new and emerging by ethnicity type. And so then when you go over here, you know, you can begin to see that there's quite a range of ethnicity types by subject area for new and emerging researchers. So there's, you know, a large number of new and emerging Māori researchers in Māori knowledge and development, and there's none in finance, accounting and finance, sorry.
Yeah.
But there is a rather large proportion of Asian and European, and then not stated, and then other ethnicities in accounting and finance.
Okay.
So if you scroll down and say you wanted, so from here you can actually select, you could click on public health and apply public health. So that becomes, again, this filter's gone on. So this information is only looking at new and emerging in the public health subject area.
Okay.
And it, you know, again, shows you the number who received a funded quality category by ethnicity in this top graph, and then it shows you which funded quality category they received.
Okay.
So I will note this because this might be somewhat confusing. We still have new and emerging on. So you would anticipate that the largest number of funded quality categories is going to be in the C&E space. But they can also receive other funded quality categories. So this is probably the residual from 2003 somehow is sneaked in here. But new and emerging, if they meet the standards of A or B funded quality category, can obviously receive.
They can get a B.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what your class is on right now.
Yeah.
They were ticked as new and emerging, but actually they got a B.
They got a B.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'll take off these filters. And then, anything else you wanted to look at?
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested, of course, in gender and research. So can we have a wee look quickly at, say, for example, women in, I don't know, physics, in the physics subject, who got a funded quality category?
Sure. So I'm going to move on through to the one on gender. So this is our researcher by gender. So if you wanted to look at how many women in physics received a funded quality category, again, you could go up here to the subject area, and you could scroll down. There's quite a few, or you could just type in physics.
Okay. Apply the filter.
Apply your filter. So you can see that the number of women, and this is the red box here, the female in physics, is small, but has been growing from 3, 6 to 12, which is 12.
Okay.
And again, you can see that so this is just the totals, and if you wanted to look at that by year, you could go up here and select year. But you can see, across all of the rounds that, there's a small number of A's, the actual largest category is B's, and then a kind of tapering off around the C and E's.
Okay, adding another variable into the mix now, or breaking it down, I should say, really. Can we do age now? So what I would like to see is still staying with the women, but for example, an age band of 30 to 39 women who are new and emerging researchers.
Right, so
I have a theory I want to test out.
Okay, so let's go over to the researcher age band, and we'll select 30 to 39.
Yeah.
So again, you can see that kind of changes. And then we can go to this filter here, which is new and emerging, and you just want to look at new and emerging women.
Yeah.
So we'll select yes.
Yeah.
So
we're still in physics, aren't we?
We're still in physics.
I can see my filters at the top there.
So we have physics, 30 to 39, and yes on the new and emerging.
Okay.
So, you have, let's see, so there were 2.6 in 6 and about 1.1 less in 12.
Okay.
And then, you can see, which is quite interesting, and this probably makes sense with the new and emerging filter on, which is that there aren't too many, there's no A's.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Okay.
For that age range, to be clear. So this is only, again, the 30 to 39 pool who are new and emerging. So it makes sense that these are, rather small numbers. So, they made up 18.9% of all new and emerging in the 30 to 39 age range. So this is not
in this subject.
So so this is not 18. Women didn't make up 18.9 of all researchers who received a funded quality category in physics. This is 18.9 of women in physics between the age range of 30 to 39 and who are new and emerging.
Okay, yeah. So there's a little bit of understanding required, isn't there, of what exactly we're looking at when we're playing with these.
Yeah. And, kind of going back to what filters have you applied helps you kind of think through what exactly am I looking at. Because when you start looking at the numbers, it is related just to what these filters are and not to the general,
not to the whole data pool.
Exactly.
Okay. But you can really delve down and see lots of interesting stuff. And I have to say, I'm sure that as opposed to the big long reports and all the trees we cut down, this is a way more flexible and agile and interesting way of looking at the data, I think.
Well, and I think that's exactly what we're hoping for, is that this provides, much more insight into what the data actually holds, and actually allows you, as you said, you have an interest in women in STEM and whether or not possibly we have, a sufficient pipeline in that age range and around new and emerging. But there's going to be lots of, I'd imagine, people at the TEOs that will have different interests.
Yeah.
And the research demographic app really kind of lets you delve a bit more into that, researcher profile. And I know TEOs won't be able to search by their individual TEOs, but gives you a general trend across, subject areas more generally. And I think on the final results app, we've tried to develop visualizations that will cater to those who like to see bar graphs and percentages, while also supplying people with the pivot tables so that they can actually download the full data set. And
so they do have the ability to do that as well.
Exactly, and to extract the information in that way if that's what's most meaningful to them.
Okay.
So I'm just going to click back into this and say, please give the apps a go. You know, I think I like data, so I think they're very interesting, and I have enjoyed, you know, playing with them and seeing the different types of visualization and filters that I can apply. But, you know, it's important that you know, you listeners out there begin to familiarize yourself with how the information is provided and how some of this functionality works. We're really keen for your feedback, and we'll send out a survey shortly to help us capture that. And lastly, get in touch if you don't have access to Nakete. I know Sharon has been in touch with all of you over the last wee while, but you need to have that in order to look at the app. So that's obviously an essential first step if you haven't done that already.
Yeah, if you're confused about what you have and what you don't have, or logins or forms to fill out, just get in touch with us and we'll steer you in the right direction.
Yeah, that's it. You know, we're here to help and offer as much support as you need. So just for reference, we recorded this on the 30th of October 2018. It will be available on our TEO quality evaluation website for your reference and ease of access. And we'll be back in touch in early 2019 with dates for face-to-face training sessions. And those will be, again, based on your responses to our SurveyMonkey around ongoing training needs. So thank you so much again for your commitment to the quality evaluation and for all the work that you have done up to this date to make the 2018 submission process a success. And so all the best. Ngā mihi nui.
Ka kite anō.